fiscal year 27 budget, adoption of the fiscal year 27 budget of the,
The speaker's on. The speaker's on.
no.
You had a gavel?
No, you do this.
Right. I guess the speaker's on, is that right?
Speaker's on.
You want to? No. That would be fun, though.
I guess the speakers weren't on, so we'll get started, and I'll repeat what I just said. Good evening. The public hearing of the fiscal year 27 budget, adoption of the fiscal year 27 budget of the Methuen School Committee, posted for Thursday, May 7, 2026, will now come to order. I'll ask the secretary to call the roll.
Member Keegan?
Present.
Member Soroyce?
Present.
Member Willett?
Yep.
Vice Chair DiZoglio?
Here.
Mayor Beauregard?
Here.
Member Donovan is here, and Member Baez.
Present.
Everybody's here. We need a motion and a second to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motions from the vice chair, seconds from member Keegan. Any discussion? There's no discussion. We will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next on the agenda, we have the flag salute. So at this point, I'll invite Dr. Golubsky to share her presentation, and then we'll move into the public hearing.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight, we're going to present our latest version of the budget. We began with our preliminary presentation on April 16th. Since that time, we've had 5 budget workshops. We've had several informal and formal small group meetings with school committee members, city council members. We've provided information that was requested by many of the committee members. I really appreciate the collaboration. I think we've all been looking line by line, trying to discover some excess funds, and I think we're all in agreement that there are none. So to this point, we feel as though we have reduced to a degree where we're able to maintain services, opportunities for students that are very similar or identical to those which they experience and enjoy currently. And we feel as though staff would experience a very similar workday and collaboration time schedule, which we are prioritizing as well. So to date, you'll see in your binder, and for those of you listening at home or in the audience, all of these materials are posted online, linked on the word packet in the school committee page. There are memos in the jacket that talk about how we arrived at that $4.7 million reduction from that original proposal. And you'll see that there's a number of teaching positions, program assistants, counselors, all of whom we do find necessary, and we would be operating without and doing the very best we can to provide our students with a high-quality education. But nevertheless, there are positions listed there that show how we got to those reductions. And whereas we had a short list of requested additions or positions that we thought would help us become more efficient, we have reduced those positions to 4, one of which is grant funded, one of which will be funded through our CTE programming funding, and then 2 of which are necessary for operation. So you'll see in your binder as you flip through school by school, when you get to that requests remaining, in most cases it says none. So we've tried to be collaborative and to hear all opinions and voices as we've moved through this. There was a question asked at the last meeting as to how many people or individuals that would mean in terms of where we are right now with reductions. And we went through and first looked at the vacant positions we had listed, the retiree positions that we had listed, which was our intent to spare our staff to the degree possible. And then we went through and started looking at people, and what we found were that the people who perhaps are newest to us or are without a license in that particular area where we would be looking first had been individuals where I recognize those names as having been on the list last year as well. And that's unfortunate. And also, if you looked in our schools, in our mentorship programs, we have mentors in every school building. Those meetings at once had been pretty robust and lively and full of people, and now there's very few new people in the buildings. So we're at a place now where we're looking at, and this is approximate because, as you know, due to attrition or other events that come up and bumping and moving between grades, there could be some fluctuation here, but we're looking at 35 individuals, and we are moving into the professional teacher status realm. So again, that brought us $4.7 million below our first presentation or our preliminary budget. And we do still have some ways to go to get to the provided number that was just under 114. So Ian will be able to provide you the specifics. We are still around 118 million. I think it was 30,000 less than what we had presented most recently at our workshop after we combed through every line to make sure that we were accurate in our math there. You'll also see in the jacket the grid that we had shared at the last workshop that shows our class sizes by grade level. And again, for the teachers who are listening, it's a complicated process in terms of reduction. So if you see on the grid, which is posted online as well, that there's a reduction in a particular grade level, it doesn't necessarily mean that a teacher currently in that grade level in that school will be the one who might be receiving a RIF notice. So there's some fluctuation there. So we have lifted our threshold, which was once 26 to 30. Our kindergartens, we are not permitted by regulation to have them over 25 with good reason. We are below that at 2022 on our anticipated projections, but that is in large part where our positions came from on that reduction list. There was some talk about perhaps user fees or athletic fees being an idea to help save positions or roles. There's a memo included there that includes projections based on pay structures or fee structures within the Merrimack Valley Conference. So you'll be able to see the range of the money that could potentially be taken in if you did go that route. And within the binder, we have our generic summary from the narratives that talk about the specific programming that's in every school that's unique and demands particular set of staffing or expertise. And then also it lists the required positions, and Ian, beneath those narratives, has included the line-by-line salaries, costs, contracted services that will make up our budget. So we ask for your consideration, and the budget that we have before you is that $118 million budget. That seemed to be the consensus from the last meeting, that was the wish that we have shared with you today. Mr. Goslin, would you like to add?
I don't have a lot to add. I think we should get to the public hearing. However, I do want to point out in the very back of your binders, there is a green packet. I had a school committee member ask me for all the lines for the whole district together, so they didn't have to look at them school by school. So that is in the back of your packet for you to peruse. And I also want to remind everyone that I say that at every meeting. Remember last year, we got $12 million in circuit breaker we were able to back out, and this year we're looking at $9 million. So our spending didn't really go up that extra $3. We got $3 million less funding. So I just want to point that out for the public and for you, but I don't have anything further to add. These numbers are what we talked about Tuesday, for the most part. The athletics, I think it's, digest it. We can talk about it, I guess, on Monday or next week. This obviously will not be our final budget, I do not think. We're going to have to get down to that number, depending on when we get information from the state. Possibly, maybe if city councilors can help us out with some one-time costs, some unemployment, I mean, that might be a first step, but again, that's at the city council decision, and I haven't heard anyone necessarily against that, so I don't want anyone to think, but I think that might be a first step.
So we'll move on to the public hearing. Do we have the list? Thank you. We'll start off with Tom Myers.
Good evening. Can you all hear me? My name is Tom Myers, and I reside at 57 Cox Lane. And I'm a retired public school teacher. I taught for over 40 years in numerous settings, mostly, I would say, at Andover High School. And I'm here today to ask that you recommend to the City Council that they use free cash to cover the deficit that was just articulated to us for next year's budget to prevent draconian cuts to education in our district. Cutting those who provide direct services to students is clearly a dystopian idea. It will cause class sizes to increase, which clearly hurts students who receive substantially less attention. No matter what you do, if you have more of responsibility, it's harder to do the job. And I think you all know that probably from the professions you're in. If you're an accountant, you're a lawyer, somebody's piling more and more on, you know you can't do as well as if you have less and more time. And cutting teachers obviously is going to mean larger class sizes. Research going all the way back to the Kerner Commission in 1967 indicates that class size is one of the most important factors in determining student success. Cutting aides, librarians, guidance counselors all harm children in a myriad of ways. The tremendous disruption that occurs when you let staff go, then you bring others on, causes confusion in the school. Those that are new and bringing fresh blood into the system are often the first to go, and that then causes, as I indicated, tremendous disruption within the schoolhouse. The damage done to children is irreparable. Students only have 1 year in a particular grade, and if their educational opportunities are reduced, this will affect them for their entire lives. You can't go back and undo third grade if it was a disaster. Therefore, I urge you to push for a short-term solution to tap into free cash available, which will give us a year to come together and to solve our fiscal problems by constructing a long-term plan to address our budget problems. I realize, as you guys do, you can't constantly tap into your savings, whether you're an individual in your own home or you're on a school committee. But I also realize that if you cut at the numbers that are being stated, You're going to have a school district that is going to decline tremendously. Property values will decline tremendously. You know, our whole district, our whole community will suffer. The fulcrum of our community is, in fact, public education. You know that. That's why you're on the school committee, to make things better. And I ask that you take a bold stand and to move forward and to tell the city council, we need to get this money for 1 year. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you all very much, okay?
Thank you, Tom. Sarah Calla?
Hi, my name is Sarah Calla. I will start by saying I am preaching to the choir a bit because it's not completely your decision. It's coming from the city council and the city government. I'm a resident and an active voter. I vote in all the elections, all of them. I'm also an employee of Methuen Public Schools of 20 plus years. I moved to Methuen when I was pregnant with my own daughter. As many people can attest, I chose Methuen at that time because of the school system. I'm not sure I would make that choice today. I actually probably wouldn't. I've witnessed programs being cut. I've watched as the district remove PA positions, librarians, cut tech positions, cut engineering, cut teachers. We used to have one tech person and an instructional technology person in each building, and librarians. There have been cuts and reductions for years. None of this is new. However, it's incredibly sad and disturbing at times. As I think of my own children, I think of the education that they received versus what students will receive next year, potentially with these cuts. Class sizes matter a great deal. According to the Tendency Project STAR study, small class sizes of 13 to 17 are the most beneficial, or class sizes of 22 to 25 with a teaching assistant. Students with low class sizes show a greater achievement. Small class sizes are the most beneficial for economically disadvantaged and minority students. I think our number's around 51% before they stopped having free lunch, before it was paid for everybody. And this is for all classrooms, whether they are core classes or electives. I honestly don't know how big the elective class sizes are if you keep cutting people. I think some of them are at like 30 or 35 now. I would like to consider children for a moment. What do you want for your own children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or even people that you know that work in the system? What do you want for them? I know that what I wanted for my own children, what I want for the children I teach. Prior to COVID, we had these giant class sizes you're talking about. There's a big difference between having 20 to 22 to 28 in the class size. Each student above 18 impacts the classroom. You're not accounting for transiency either. This year, we had 9 new students come in. So if there's 3 teachers on a team, 28 becomes 30 really fast. And obviously for somebody, possibly more. And there have been years when I've had 12 to 15, sometimes even 20 new students in a year. So you're not counting for transiency. In addition, when you're a teacher in writing, you can give more time to students when you have 20 students opposed to 30. Each student above 18 impacts the classroom. Back to considering children. As one of my teacher friends says, children are not macaroni boxes. They don't come to school with the same home lives, the same abilities, or the same language skills. They just don't. And we've all seen a huge uptick in angry or dysregulated students, students that need a great deal more than one classroom teacher will be able to give. We need the support staff. Your children need the support staff. Think about your own families. When you had one child, then potentially a second or a third, how much did that change your home life? Think of a classroom in addition of 8 to 10 students. There will be a huge impact, huge. Is this what you want for your own families? It isn't what I want for your children. It isn't what I want for my students. I absolutely do not want this for our students. Class sizes absolutely matter. A long time ago, I was an engineering teacher. My first year, the budget was $10,000. My second year is $5,000. The third is $3,000. For the next 3, it was $0. I kept it going with my own money, going to yard sales and begging everybody I could beg to get stuff for my classroom. It was later cut, as was family and consumer sciences. Fast forward to when I was teaching English. When I first started, there was a bulletin board paper. That stopped pretty quickly. When I was an English teacher, I had to have books from my library. I had about 1,400 because I used Donors Choose, but that was quickly stopped because I was told we're going to make Methuen look poor. I think we can say we have a problem here, people. That was 10 plus years ago. Now, what's going to happen with these new cuts? It's not just going to be teachers, it's going to be supplies, it's going to be other things we need. And, to change the subject a little, I want people to move to Methuen that will add to our tax base. And I don't know about you, but the first question I asked when I moved here was, what are the schools like? I absolutely looked at that first. And most people buying homes that are considering having families are going to do that as well. We can't keep doing things like this. We can't. Methuen is a place a long, long time ago when I was in Lawrence, and people who worked there can attest, this is how it happened. It went like this, and then slowly over time. It didn't happen all at once. And it's been happening to Methuen for years. You have to stop the bleeding here, people. You have to. Like, stop the pain, support the schools, and stop the cuts. Like, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we have to find a way not to keep doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Maria Figueroa?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Figueroa. I live at 10 Hughes Road in Methuen. I just wanted to make yet again another public plea as you guys talk about budgets and needs for the community and our schools. The audit, $140,000 for an audit that no one seems to want to talk about and the public still wants answers. I get that you redacted it. I've asked for it to please be shared with all the new school committee members, chairs, Sorois, Baez. Everyone should be privy to that information. I think to talk about the deficiencies that the city has, you have to get to the root and the core of the problem. And I think the audit will help us there. So I'm just asking again, yet making a public plea, please, let's talk about that audit as we look into moving along with the budget as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Colleen Muller?
Hi. You guys hear me okay? Good evening. 13 Bottonwood Drive. I am both a resident of this community and an educator working within our city school system. As both a resident and a teacher, and as a parent whose own children went through this school system, I have seen firsthand the negative impact that not prioritizing a school system can have. I want to express my deep concern regarding the budget deficit and the potential impact it will have on our students, our staff, and the overall quality of education in Methuen. I want to say that I am proud to be a public school teacher. It's all I've ever wanted to be, which is why it's especially difficult to witness the challenges our schools are currently facing and the toll that it's already taking on both our students and staff. From my perspective in the classroom, I've seen firsthand how critical adequate funding is to student success. Resources, staffing levels, support services, and extracurricular opportunities all play a vital role in creating a safe and effective learning environment. A deficit of this magnitude raises huge questions about foresight and planning, particularly because this appears to be a recurring pattern in this city. We simply cannot and should not accept a single staff reduction, increased class size, or reduction in programming. I invite all of you, in order to truly understand the magnitude of even considering staff reductions, all of it, class sizes and cuts that support our most vulnerable students, I invite every member of you in front of me tonight to put boots on the ground inside a classroom for one day. Come in to witness the challenges we face every single day. These changes would not only affect educational outcomes, but also place additional strain on educators, all of us behind me, who are already working tirelessly to meet diverse student needs. Quite simply, we cannot continue to take from a system that is already stretched thin because you can't take from what's already empty. We're already facing significant staffing challenges. Many positions remain unfilled, and we're operating short-staffed. It's become increasingly difficult to attract and retain educators, and there's also a growing perception that people don't want to come to Methuen to work in the school system. Further cuts are only going to exacerbate this issue and make it harder to provide students the support and consistency that they need. As educators, we continue to hear about the importance of increasing student achievement and improving reading scores. Yet, we are not creating the conditions necessary for that success to happen. Larger class sizes, fewer staff members, and reduced support services directly undermine the very goals that this district claims to value. If we truly want students to grow academically, then we have to provide schools and educators with the resources and support needed to create the environment where learning can thrive. I urge you to be assertive in advocating for our schools by demanding increased support from both the city and the state. A shortfall of this size shouldn't be addressed solely through cuts at the school level. Our students and educators deserve full and equitable funding, and it's critical that all levels of government are held accountable for meeting that responsibility. I also urge the school committee to advocate for the use of Methuen's free cash as a one-time solution to help close this immediate budget gap while a long-term financial plan is developed. I get it, I live in this city, I understand free cash is not a permanent fix and it should not be thought of year after year after year, but our students shouldn't bear the consequences of years of inadequate planning and underfunding. If the city can use free cash to fund services like garbage collection, then we can certainly use free cash to strengthen the school budget and protect the educational opportunities our students deserve. This crisis has to be addressed responsibly with a commitment to better forecasting, stronger collaboration, and more sustainable budgeting moving forward. I also want to acknowledge that I know this situation didn't happen overnight. The city has not equitably funded the school department for years, and there's been a pattern of neglect when it comes to maintaining city-owned school buildings. These long-standing issues have compounded the current financial challenges and also need to be addressed as part of any meaningful solution. I will end with this. If we want a top-rate system that our students deserve, then we have to make education a priority. The strength of a school system is one of the primary factors that attracts families to a city across Massachusetts. It's the reason why my husband and I, when we got married in 1994, bought our house and chose to raise our family in this city. All 3 of my kids went here. 2 of them graduated from this building. And they are all incredibly successful adults and humans. I don't know if I can say that right now for the students that are in front of me. If we continue disinvestment, it's harming our current students and it undermines the long-term vitality and reputation of our community. Balancing the budget should not come at the expense of what the students of Methuen deserve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Colleen. Ben Thompson?
Good evening. My name is Ben Thompson. I live at 318 Ferry Road in Haver, but I work for Methuen Public Schools. Good evening, Mayor Beauregard, members of Methuen City Council, Methuen School Committee, and the residents and employees of Methuen. As a program, this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and as a program assistant at the Marsh, I see all the hard work my colleagues and I put together every day to make sure our students get the best education they can possibly receive. Unfortunately, the budget as presented tonight does not make us feel appreciated. Due to financial mismanagement, which, as mentioned before, goes decades, it's not just limited to the school system. We are facing a $10 million deficit. I understand you guys have worked a lot hard to minimize that, but the pain is still real. A minimum of 35 educators lost is 35 too many, and as the mayor told Channel 4, we are cutting from the bone, not the fat. While I'm aware of the problems of the way the state funds our schools, those are beyond our control, aside from lobbying our congressman. But there are real actions we can choose to do as the city to minimize the impact of this. Just recently, this week, the city council and the mayor came together to agree to set aside $850,000 to ensure that the city's trash gets picked up to keep it clean and safe. Well, it's been debated whether or not free cash can be used as an emergency rainy day fund. Per Massachusetts law, it is allowed to do so. And also, we are already way more than we need, as recommended by the state, to have in our free cash. Well, it's not a permanent solution. I think it would be to the best interest for everybody in this room, for the sake of yourselves, the educators, myself and behind me, and our children in the city, that we take the option now to urge our education-oriented mayor and the city council to use free cash as a pre-cash, just like they did last year, to minimize teacher layoffs, and reflect on how we can prevent this from being in the same place every year. Failure to do so will negatively impact Methuen for generations. The time is now.
Thank you, Ben. That's the last person who signed up on the list. Is there anybody in the audience who, Dan?
Stay on script, okay? Hi, Dan Chibilia, 22 Riverview Ave. So there's a lot of emotion in the room, and there's going to be a lot of emotion at the Great Hall, and all of it's very justified. I know better than most in this community how much it sucks to sit in your seats and have to decide who you're going to hurt to balance a budget, because it's just one of the worst feelings in the world when you know that you can't do anything to solve the problem short of winning the lottery. It's helpless and angry. And despite some of us in our differing views, we all did this for the same reason, because we all wanted to do something good, and I think that everyone agrees that nothing that's happening right now is good. You've been on the law, so you're going to be on the receiving end of a lot, and the council will be on the receiving end of a lot, and I hope they're watching tonight. I mean, I doubt it, but I hope they're watching tonight, because it's going to continue, because this is Groundhog's Day in Methuen. Whether anybody in this room is willing to admit it, we all know how this ends unless the state comes out and bails us out like they did last year. We all know that it's going to end in the same way. The frustrations you and the council will hear are warranted from teachers, from parents, and hopefully from students who come up to those microphones and speak their piece. Every single one of them. And I think we need to remember that before we make comments and judge the red shirts in the audience in the speeches that you hear. But we need to remember that you guys chose these jobs. You, the mayor, the city council, we all knew what we were signing up for when we ran for office. We knew how much we were inheriting that was built or failed to be built over decades of neglect in this city. It's not the last 2 years, it's not the last 6 years, it's decades of systematic neglect. We treated education like a simple line item and a number on a spreadsheet, something you can cut when things got tough and then maybe restore it later. The problem was we never really restored it. But education is never simple, and it never will be. And it's not the same school or the same atmosphere that I was in when I graduated high school in 2004, or you guys in, what, 06, 07, or any of you at any point in time. It is a very different world right now. The city has spent years refusing to see itself what it actually is, a growing urban city and not the small town that people want to hold on to for their memories. The needs of our kids and our families and our teachers, they reflect the reality whether we like it or not, and we have chronically repeated and failed to catch up. But just like Member Willett has said, probably, 5 million times, we need to stop letting our friends on the Hill get off the hook, because they deserve every bit of the anger too. You thought I was going to give you a cheap shot, didn't you? Yeah. So the governor knows Chapter 70 is broken. She knows it. They all know it. They sit on Beacon Hill and they do nothing except talk about fixing it every budget cycle. The Student Opportunity Act was supposed to change things. It's not working like it was designed, and they ignore it. Special education reimbursements, rates that are set by the state, the same state that also sets our Chapter 70 rates, are not keeping up with the inflation. OSD rates went up, what was it, 4.25% or something percent this year, when Chapter 70 went up 2 and change? It's not keeping pace. Every student and every parent standing in this room has a right to be furious, and so do you, and so does the mayor, and so does the council. You guys are stuck holding the bag, and I know how much that is. I know how frustrating that is. Some of it's our fault, because Methuen, in typical Methuen fashion, has done not much to change and evolve in past years. Some of it was handed to us, and some of it came from the suits in the city. So the question, as I was sitting there thinking about this when I wrote this down, was, so what do we do now? And my thought is that it's time for the era of toxic positivity to die. The everything is fine, we keep smiling, don't air the dirty laundry era, I think needs to go to the wayside. It's protected no one and it's fixed nothing. And it's just making skeletons comfortable in the closet. Our teachers need to stand up and be loud, not whisper it in parking lots and in restaurants, because we all hear the stories. And if the governor heard these stories and spent a day in these classrooms, I don't think she would shortchange the budget on inflation anymore. We hear the stories about classrooms being evacuated, some of them multiple times a day. Children throwing chairs through walls and windows. Dangerous situations where teachers are getting kicked, punched, bruised, bitten, bleeding in hallways and in classrooms. It's the reality of what they're dealing with every morning, or not every morning, every day. And the people on Beacon Hill, the ones controlling the money, will never know it unless we stand up, make a lot of noise, and attract all the dirty attention that we can. The city is not going to be able to solve this problem. Even using free cash right now doesn't fix it, because there's nothing this mayor is going to be able to do, or the city council is going to do, to generate all the money we need to replace that come the FY28 budget. We need to turn the aggression and the volume way up to get the attention of Boston, to get the attention of the governor, drive the media out, and have people know what's happening in the classrooms. Now, I understand there are student privacy policies and everything else that need to be protected. I know the legal lines, but there's a way to tell the story, and we need to find a way to use it. We need to make enough noise that the governor and every state rep and senator can't look away, because right now they look away every year after every budget cycle, and we let them because we can't be heard. There's plenty of blame to go around on every counselor, every school committee member, and every mayor that has come before. But we did nothing to avoid this. And I think now it might be time to try something a little crazy and a little drastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Hello, I would just like to reflect on what the first speaker said, Tom Myers. My name is Matt Bach, and I think that the point about class size increasing is really important from a financial perspective. If these cuts go through, obviously class size is going to skyrocket, and delivering services to students, especially the most disadvantaged students, the most vulnerable students, the students who require the most services, are going to be very difficult. And that is probably going to result in litigation that's going to be costly to the school district. So savings in terms of cuts are not going to be long-lasting. They're going to become exponential costs to the district. The second thing I want to reiterate that we've heard a lot about is free cash. Methuen is an outlier in the Merrimack Valley in free cash. I work in Andover, which is a very stingy community in terms of their free cash, and they don't have nearly as much as Methuen. The only way you accumulate that type of free cash is if you're skimming off of the public budgets in the first place and hoarding free cash off of the backs of your workers and your community members and the students who deserve those services. Now, you may not, as a school committee, have the ability to directly effectuate a transfer of free cash into your coffers, right? That's not within your purview. However, it is within your purview to vote down whatever suggested cuts are coming in this situation. You do not have to be complicit with this nonsense. And that's exactly what the hoarders of free cash want. They want the stamp of the approval of the school committee to say this is okay, we'll make do with what we got. So you should vote down that budget that includes these cuts. You should say no, and you should not go easy into that type of degradation of the public schools in Methuen.
Hi, Laura Peck. This is Cecilia Peck. We're at 14 Coachman Lane in Methuen, and I'm an educator in a neighboring district. My husband has been toying with the idea of moving. We've only owned our home for 2 years, and I have been very adamant that I would like my daughter to go to the comprehensive grammar school in Methuen because of all of the wonderful things I've heard about it. I am an Amesbury native. I didn't grow up in Methuen, but recently, with all of these cuts, it's more and more tempting to move out. I am a specials teacher. I'm a music teacher, an elementary music teacher in my district, and because class sizes don't apply to my content, I am in environments with more than 30 children in them because of integration, and I understand fully what the difference between a 22 kid classroom and a 32 kid classroom is, or even a 30, because I see them back to back on a daily basis. I know what I want for my child and her education. She'll be at the comprehensive grammar school in 3 years if this is where we stay. And oh, no, thank you. And she had a long day of daycare and I had a long day of teaching, excuse us. But I know that that's not what I have ever imagined for my child's education. And unfortunately, some of these cuts are very similar to cuts that have been proposed in other districts and thankfully not gone through fully. But in my district, we are going through a very similar situation where free cash has not been used. And it needs to be. It needs to be. And budgets need to be fully funded in the first place in order to provide the education that our children deserve and the services that our children deserve in the first place. But since that's not currently the case, this free cash has to be used in the meantime in order to allow time for a temporary time for a permanent solution. But unfortunately, this budget as it is currently and these cuts are not practical. Again, I'm not a Methuen native and I've only lived here for 2 years, and these cuts are like really, really concerning to me as somebody who only has 3 years until she's in these schools. So please think about who will be moving here, who will be moving out of here if these cuts happen, because the people who are looking into the education systems when they move will not move here with these cuts. Thank you.
school committee members, superintendent, mayor. Noreen Flanagan Johnson, 11 Wayside Ave. I am the 7th grade math teacher at the Timony. I have 3 students in the Timony. I have 1 in the high school, and I have an MHS graduate. And forgive me, while I do teach middle school students, I am afraid of speaking in front of adults. I would request that in this budget discussion that the school committee reopen and rediscuss our one-to-one Chromebook policy. I believe that we should go back to carts for K through 6, definitely. K through 7, probably. I know from a quick Google search that the city puts out a request for bids on over 1,000 Chromebooks a year at a cost of over $300,000 a year for those Chromebooks on 4-year leases. With that and with all of the different apps and websites that we have memberships and subscriptions to, that's probably 4 teaching positions. And I would rather my children have paper and pencil and a lower school elementary health teacher or an upper school Spanish teacher than have a Chromebook that comes home every day. If any of you are interested, I'd be more than happy to talk your ear off about all the reasons sending Chromebooks home with kids every day is a terrible decision, but I will do that when I'm not on camera. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak who didn't sign up?
Good evening, Lori Amico. I work at Branch Street as a PA. These proposed budget cuts are a direct hit to the students who need our support the most. Balancing the city's budget on the backs of our kids is entirely unfair, especially when they are paying the ultimate price for administrative failures that they did not create. We hear the statistic constantly. 70% of our students are not reading at grade level. But let's be completely honest about what got us here. The real failure started in the city council, where 100% of those professionals could not read the contracts before them. If they had possessed the adult, professional, and basic math and literacy skills that we are asking our children to have, we would not be in this mess today. The officials faced absolutely no accountability for their negligence, but our students are carrying the weight of those oversights today, and tomorrow, and for every day going forward until we can get our acts together. I'm begging each of you on the school committee to step up. Use your adult and professional math and critical thinking skills to protect our classrooms. Stand up for these kids and be the heroes that they need right now. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting and we'll move on to the adoption of the fiscal year 27 budget. So what I'm going to do is we have several different aspects of the budget that we need to formally take a vote on. So what I'll do is, at this point, let's entertain a motion and a second to adopt the operating net school spending portion of the budget. Then we can engage in discussion. And Superintendent, do you have a thought?
We were just wondering if you maybe needed to motion to close the public hearing first.
So I don't think that that's a parliamentary, like we don't need to take a vote.
Just want to make sure we're
Yeah.
following procedure.
Sure, of course. So, you know, I guess, out of an abundance of caution, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay. All right. Motion's from Member Baez. The second is from Member Donovan. And we'll go into the adoption portion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The public hearing is officially closed. So now at this point, I'll entertain a motion and a second to adopt the operating net school spending aspect of the budget. So this was all posted in the Tribune. And so what we'll do is we'll share the number, and this is again based on the Tribune posting, the operating net school spending aspect of the budget, not including chargebacks, is $106,590,457. Do we have a motion and a second? Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
All right, the motion's from Member Keegan, the second's from Member Soroyce. We'll open it up for discussion. We'll hear from the Vice Chair.
Mr. Goslin, this number reflects the 118 that you are, we're proposing,
It reflects the number that we had on Tuesday,
which is not the
minus
mayor's,
about $30,000.
and this is not the mayor's number,
This is not the mayor's number.
correct?
This is approximately $4.5 million off.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because we don't have the numbers from the state yet. And if this numbers that we're projecting come through, we could see either more or less than that number, correct?
Yeah,
And-
we get more or less, yeah.
But that's not the 4.5 million difference, is what I'm trying to get at. It's not, that number is not what the state's giving us as of right now, that difference. I just
No.
wanted it for the record. And so, I know we've talked about one-time expenses going to City Hall. Is that something that has been proposed in the last 2 days to move forward with in the coming weeks with the City Council?
I believe the mayor has a list of one-time costs of tuitions of students who are aging out, as well as their transportation, which would be considered a one-time cost. As well as, in this budget, we have $250,000 in unemployment, which last year the city council was gracious enough to assume that cost so that we could take it out of our budget. So those items are in the mayor's hands as far as I know.
And what's the grand total of that number?
I would, right off the top of my head, a little bit less than 1.2.
So 1.2 million coming from free cash potentially. So Mayor, quick question for you. Is there an ordinance or resolution proposed before the close of the fiscal year to have 1.2 million in front of the council to move over for free cash?
So the deadline to submit agenda items for the next meeting and any subsequent meetings is coming up on Tuesday. So that would be something that we would submit to the council in keeping with all the other agenda items for potentially the next regular meeting, or at least a regular meeting between now and the end of June. That is certainly something that I'm willing to pitch to the city council. Now, I want to mention that the thinking, and I guess the mechanical aspect of how that works, is that that would help to alleviate some of the money that is coming out of circuit breaker, so that can, in essence, stay within the bucket and continue to provide some help. So that's something that would be before the city council at a regular meeting between now and the end of the fiscal year in June.
Okay. Thank you. I'm all set. Thank you.
And that's not, this is separate from the Constellations discussion that I know Member Baez is likely to mention.
And yes, that investment is separate from the budget.
Right.
Correct. So I just want to make sure that that number isn't part of this either. Okay. I'm all set. Thank you.
Member Willett?
I'm just very disheartened that our unions did not provide any solutions to this process. We know collectively, I've said it the last 3 years, that there's major issues on Beacon Hill in terms of funding the localities, both on the municipal side and the school side. Mass budget, and I would recommend anyone to reach out to them to corroborate what I'm saying. There's a deficit of $7 to $8 million, an inflationary gap, because of the inflation rate that accumulated during the Biden years in the amount of 20%. So when you talk about a $7 to $8 million gap, and you go through the packet we received, when you're talking about special education, transportation, and services, and utilities, and other things that we have to, as a district, provide, okay, that gap would have tackled those deficiencies, okay? When you're talking about a massive surplus to the millionaire's tax that's being diverted for other purposes, they're not listening on Beacon Hill. You have a massive union membership compounded by families and neighbors. Your fight is not with us. We all sympathize with you. This is devastating. In the past, right, we try to resolve the budget crisis through concessions from the unions in order to avoid layoffs. I have taken no heart in the fact that I've had to engage in layoffs since I returned back to the school committee. I take it very personally. But I've also mentioned the same speech again, and former member Shabilia highlighted it, and your own union president highlighted it last year. It's not the school committee, it's not the mayor, it's not the city council where your fight is. Your fight is with Beacon Hill. Now, they'll provide numbers to you, but last year, there was an amendment offered both on the House side and the Senate side that would have bolstered Chapter 70 by an additional $200 to $300 million. That failed. And it was the education chair that provided the amendment. The Speaker of the House and the Senate President and the Governor failed to add $200 to $300 million to shore up our communities. I mean, I offered solutions about the GIC, and as a philosophical disagreement, I understand that. But state troopers, professors, nurses assigned to state hospitals, firefighters with Massport, they're all part of the GIC. Haverhill, Lawrence, Lowell, North Andover are part of the GIC. I was part of the GIC for 24 years. I would never voluntarily join a system, right, unless I could tell you that I had absolutely no problems with that system. I raised 2 kids. It was part of Harvey Pilgrim. That's a concrete solution. On the website, the Facebook page for your association, you concede that free cash is not a long-term solution, but yet this year, like last year, we want to go back to that piggy bank and expect the taxpayers to pay the difference without structural reforms. I'm sorry. Unless you tell me the justification for not joining the GIC, where you have hundreds of thousands of state workers and their families, and your colleagues have joined the GIC, okay? A non-starter, I had emails from teachers, unfortunately, that recommended cutting reading specialists or jacking up parking fees. One case says, yeah, definitely have parking fees at Methuen High School. You know what we are compared to Haverhill? We're 5 times Haverhill. They're $10 per kid. Before I went back to the school committee, it was $100. I got it down to 50, okay? You have 51% of your population of students qualifies for free and reduced lunch. And a gentleman made reference to Andover versus Methuen. Are you serious? Or North Andover? You want to look at the per capita? Reach out to the Pioneer Institute. There's an intern here that'll give you the data. You think we're Lexington or North Andover or Andover? And I never heard in all my years of public service that having a free cash reserve is a bad thing. Like, shame on you if you have a recession. You know, you're gonna have massive layoffs. Back in 2008, right, we had our municipal workers had to give 10% in order to save the jobs. You verified that, okay? No one wants to provide concessions. 10%? I'm not going to engage in
We have
cross
to, we have to
debate. I'm not
maintain,
going to engage in
we have to
cross
maintain
debate.
order.
Okay.
Just, we need order.
All right. Okay, again, if you wanted to have a separate conversation with me, my phone has always been published. I had a few emails from teachers, and what they wanted to do was cut their own colleagues. You know, so that's a big crying shame where you're willing to engage in layoffs, okay? Willing to engage in layoffs in order to maintain your contract, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. And personally, I went through sacrifice. I worked 24 years at the State House. I was subject to a furlough. I had pay cuts. I had zeros for many years, and I have a master's degree, okay? And I can tell you a whole bunch of other people, right? I would wish that we had solutions provided by the other side, and we have not been provided solutions from the other side. So the same speeches from last year are the same speeches this year, and nobody is surprised at this table, please. And we can go talk about decades and years past and police contracts and a former superintendent and everything like that. The Student Opportunity Act is not providing enough money to our schools. That's a fact. The millionaire's tax, which only garnered 52% of the vote, barely passed. That's not helping our schools, okay? So unfortunately, I hate this. I don't want this to be an adversarial thing, but until you provide solutions, I can't vote for this budget. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Member Donovan?
We know that, everyone at this table knows, everyone out here knows what our students and staff and families need for our kids to thrive academically, physically, socially, emotionally. And I don't think there's anyone at this table who feels good about this budget, because we are not providing what our students need, what our staff needs. I've been involved with Methuen schools for well over 25 years, and I can't remember the years when we didn't lose staff or lose something because of cuts. And it did feel a lot like the schools always took the brunt. And I'm also very mindful that this is a terrible time of year for the uncertainty, because everyone's trying to end the year. There's a lot more challenges at the end of the school year than there are at the beginning in teaching and managing behaviors and emotions. And I'm really sorry that we are already fighting with each other. It's not what I want for our schools. Throughout the school year, well, our budget subcommittee is new, and when we met, and every meeting, we talked. Mr. Goslin, our superintendents, the mayor, Ms. Bozak, Ms. Keegan and I, about ways to save money and find money, like create revenue. And, you know, when you're in education, you really shouldn't be out fundraising. But we looked for ways to somehow bring money into our district. And that went from looking at school choice, creating a remote school. And we found that that job was bigger than all of us. And to really do something significant, we would need support, reform at the federal level, legislative reform at the state level, to try to change things and make new things. So obviously, when this is all over, we need to work together to get some sort of strategic plan for not just the schools, but for the city. And I hope we can reach that point. I'm hopeful that we will be getting money from the state. Every meeting, I ask Mr. Goslin, what have you heard? We know that it looks good unless something goes horribly wrong. We will be getting, I don't want to say it out there, maybe 4 million maybe 3. But we'll be getting, hopefully, we don't, but when you read the press releases from the State House, I'm a little more heartened. I hate that we're putting teachers through this blender again. I'm heartened by some of the conversations for the first time I've had with counselors who seem very willing to commit. It's still a rotten place to be, and I'm so sorry we're here. I really am. But we'll be getting a motion soon about what we will support. I don't expect it to be the final number. I'm hoping we will get a little bit more. I'm hoping between the mayor and the city council, they will find it in their hearts to give us a little or a lot, to help us make some of these substantial changes that we need in order to move forward and provide what we need for our students. But I really hope we can move forward together, because the discourse is not going to help us at all. And I know we have our lieutenant governor coming to town next Saturday. It'd be a good opportunity to meet with her or be present. I plan to be there. I hope you folks will be as well, because we are far more effective when we work together. And that's all. Thank you.
Member Bias?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. First, I would like to thank everyone in the public who came up and expressed their feelings, their emotions, whether the fact, the outcome. Advocacy is always important in what you believe in. I'd also like to thank our leadership team for a process that has been awful, but at the same time, you guys are doing your best in the roles and jobs that you are doing. Now, during this process, I have tried to go line item by line item in this book, but our administration team has probably done that 10 times more than I and know this book back and forth more than I. And today, I will attempt to do the same thing once again. But before I ask more questions that inevitably have straightforward answers to, I'd like to address a couple of things. One of those things is, as Mr. Mayor, you mentioned, is the investment that we're looking for in our school district. Monday, in our regular business meeting, we'll have a presentation by Assistant Superintendent Bozak on what we believe is going to be a long-term, sustainable way to move the district forward with structural reform. And I'd like to make it known and emphasize, as Vice Chair DeZoglio was saying, that this is separate from our operating budget. As I also want to make it known that from the conversations that I've had with the city council members and with the community members, folks seem amendable to free cash usage in terms of investments that will reduce costs and possibly generate revenue. So with that peace in mind about that the investment is separate and that counselors seem receptive to the conversation, it is not, and this year at least, it has not been a hostile relationship between the school committee, the city council, and the mayor. Now, most likely I'm going to vote for a budget that's different than the mayor. But I understand that the mayor has to vote for his budget because he's presenting a balanced budget of the city to the city council. And he, I assume, understands where I'm coming from, of course. So there, as of right now, I'd like to let the community know that it is not a hostile relationship between the school committee, the city council, and the mayor's office, because we all know the position that we're in. And so I'd like the community to refrain from creating unnecessary friction when we're all trying our best to find solutions. Now, to those solutions and that point, structural reform is what we need, and part of that is things like, for example, and we've talked about this in prior meetings, is solar. It's bus arm systems for violations of traffic stops, which might bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars to our district. And I know that there was someone in the community out there saying that bus stop arms might bring in revenue case millions of dollars. So we have to look at that, and I know, Mr. Mayor, that the solicitor's office is working on those RFPs, and I'm going to ask you once again where that stands once again. And I know it's only been a couple of days, but just for context for the community to know that we have been working with the mayor's office and the city council to make those structural reforms. I'm not even going to get into the GIC because that's an ongoing process as well. But in terms of the bus arm and the solars, where are we at?
So I think that might be. So as we discussed, can everybody hear me? Okay. As we discussed at the last meeting, those are two RFPs that the solicitor's office is continuing to finalize. It's not expected to generate significant revenue, but again, every little bit helps, and I think we need to keep all of these different ideas in the mix when we think about revenue. So those are things that will help on the margins for sure. Doesn't really help us with the gap that we're talking about, but nevertheless, again, I thank you for pushing for that and for ensuring that that stays at the top of mind as we talk about some other reforms as well. Do you have any other comments? If not, I was going to hop in and share some thoughts, but.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you once again, in conversations with the acting superintendent, yourself, and a mayoral update in the last city council meeting, you mentioned an audit of our special education system. And now that we have a lot of educators, parents, community members in the room, through you, if you would like to give a general update once again on and elaborate a little bit on that, because perhaps more people are watching today.
Sure, thank you for that. So, I think that this is a good opportunity to share some background regarding why we're in the situation that we're in, but also I think this is a good opportunity to talk about how we need to shake things up in terms of the way that we're thinking about school funding, city government, et cetera. So if you look at our school budget, the three biggest drivers of cost, and we know this, it's the same case every year, we have these out-of-district special education tuitions that we are providing services. Of course, we're legally and morally obligated to provide. But there are certain cases in which some of these placements are costing the city a tremendous amount of money. There's one organization that we pay $3.5 million to provide services to 13 students, for example. And so these are things that are mandated by law, but at the same time, we don't receive, I think, the extent of the assistance that we really should be receiving as a community if we're required to provide these services as we are. So from special education to transportation, we look at the contract for busing, et cetera. And then, of course, we have contractual obligations, which we are committed to ensuring is covered in the budget. Now, the challenge that we have is a math problem that is not unique to Methuen. This isn't something that Methuen is alone in dealing with, where we've had cuts in federal funding, thanks to the Trump administration, I'm just going to say it. And then beyond that, state aid through Chapter 70 is increasing 2.3%. And if you were to look at the number initially provided in order to maintain level services, that amount, factoring in special ed, factoring in transportation, factoring in contractual obligations, all told, represents an 11% increase. So when you have federal aid going down, state aid going up, sure, but going up to the tune of 2% roughly, and then the level service budget going up 11%, the math just does not work. And the difference between Methuen and other communities, when you look at, say, Lexington, they're dealing with tremendous budget issues, significant school budget issues, namely. these other municipalities, they've invested in education over time, well above and beyond net school spending in many cases. And so that's why I've heard this from others in the public. I know this is a quote I've heard Dan use, but it's the truth, where in Methuen, whenever we have to make cuts, we don't cut from fat, we end up cutting from bone. And that's the challenge that we have. And that is something that does make Methuen different from all the other municipalities that are dealing with similar issues. And the challenge with our school budget is that we are reaping decades of underinvestment in our schools. This goes back many years. And ultimately, when you have revenue not keeping up with the drivers of cost, and you have this cumulative underinvestment over time, what we have is a fundamentally broken system that is in need of deep structural reforms. And that's the conversation that we're having. Member Bias has been a tremendous advocate for the discussion about potential energy savings through solar, through the school bus stop arm program. But then beyond that, we're talking about the prospect of an investment in constellations with the hope of bringing some of those out-of-district placements back into our district, which would get us, I think, to a more sustainable place long-term, assuming that we're able to bring those families back in. We're talking about health insurance. This is something that is, I think, a little bit of a difficult point of contention at the very moment, given some other issues in that regard. But, we need to have a sustainability conversation in the context of health insurance, where a good example of the challenge that we have in that regard is that we have a self-funded plan. So we pay for all of our own claims, right? And right now in the city of Methuen, we're operating at a 110% loss ratio. I explained this during a recent meeting, where that means that for every dollar we take in premiums collected, we're paying out $1.10 in claims, which is simply not sustainable. Again, math that just doesn't work. And so we're going to have another deficit in our health insurance trust fund this year that we're going to have to use free cash to help shore up, just like last year and in recent points in time. And the question I'm going to get is, well, why didn't we budget an additional, say, $4 or $5 million on the health insurance line in the last budget? My question, anyone who asks that, is going to be, well, were you willing last year to make $4 to $5 million in cuts in, say, our schools, to our police, to our fire, to all these different issues? And so what we're dealing with is a system that is broken. And the time for kicking the can down the road is over. And the hard decisions rest with me as the current mayor, rest with the current city council, rest with the school committee, because we can't keep going year after year with these tremendous structural pressures. And something has got to give. And I just want to speak personally about where my own feelings are at with this budget. I think that what we're about to see in this city over the next week, once I present my full comprehensive citywide budget to the council next week on Friday, we're going to see a restructuring of government that we haven't seen in the city in a very long time, including significant pain on the city side, I think for the first time since, 2008, 2009, perhaps. And so this is a year where the pain is literally across the board. And speaking as somebody who not only is a product of our public school system, but as a Methuen Public Schools parent, I have a first grader in our schools. And over the course of the past year, given our facilities issues, given all the issues that we've had in our schools, I spent a lot of time in these buildings, right? And I see what our teachers experience, and it's something that I'm very sensitive to. And I think that what we're discussing here in the context of the budget is terrible. And I don't think there's anybody at this table that is truly in favor of what we're talking about. And now I'm hopeful that we're going to get some help from the state at the end of the day, just like we did last year. That's something that I'm tremendously hopeful for. But the issue is that we have this budget calendar where I have to present, by mandate, I have to present a balanced budget to the city council next Friday. And as a result, the number that we've been discussing, this 118, it's roughly $4 million above and beyond what I had originally provided to the district in terms of a number. And that is considering all of the cuts that we're going to see on the city side. And so I am not voting tonight on something that I think is good. I'm not in favor of it. If I wasn't the mayor and I didn't have a fiduciary obligation to submit a balanced budget to the council, I would be voting no. I'd probably be wearing a red shirt right now on the other side of this podium if I wasn't in elective office. But given the position that I'm in, I have to present a balanced budget to the council. I have to make that very difficult choice. And so, I understand we're probably going to be, just reading the room, the committee's probably going to be voting for the higher number. I can't. I would love to join you. I truly would, but I just can't. So that is where we're at. Again, given the fact that we're adopting these numbers tonight, we're going to be getting, I think, some help from the state. As I referenced, the Lieutenant Governor's coming. That's a great opportunity to raise awareness and try to push for more advocacy with the state. And so, despite all that, here we are tonight having to make very difficult decisions. So, does anybody else have any discussion before we move on? Because we do have to vote. Member Baez? That was a very long answer to your question. I apologize.
No worries, no worries. I do have two more things and some questions for the admin team, so I do apologize if I'm a little longer again. So actually, perhaps if anybody else has, before I go ahead and take a long time as well, if other people have second round before I do, actually.
Member Soares?
So, from the very beginning, I said I would vote no for 30 in a classroom. I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but I have worked for this district for 25 years. I have seen it go to the top, and I am not going to be part of seeing it come down again. It's not fair to the students. That's our number one concern, are these students. And I had said from the very first budget meeting, I am not voting for a budget that's going to put 30 students in a classroom. The safety alone is just an incredible. And I'm not saying it for your applause. I'm really not. That's just from the very beginning I've said I'm going to vote no. I understand and I respect the mayor, and I know he has a job to do, but being my first year with a budget, and I also said from the very beginning, I don't get it. I don't get why the school has to do our budget first before the city can do their budget, before we get any money from the state or know even how much we're getting. I don't understand how this works. It's my first year. I'm going by what I've seen and what I've heard as being an employee of Methuen Public Schools, and I totally appreciate what the administration has done. I've seen them do it time after time after time. And it's not fair to you, it's not fair to the students, it's not fair to us as a committee. Are you kidding me? We have to sit here and vote for things that we don't agree with? I'm sorry, I can't do that, and I won't do it. So I apologize, Mayor, I apologize to the committee, but I am gonna have to vote no tonight.
Member Keegan?
This budget cycle has, this budget cycle has literally kept me up at night. People have gotten emails from me at 1 in the morning because I am sick over this stuff. And I have to say, I think I'm with Member Sorois on this one. I think I'm a no vote. And I can't live with myself voting for this budget. So that's where I'm at. There's nothing else to say. There's no money, and I know there's no money, and I know that the city can't give us more money. So I know that me voting no isn't gonna matter in the long run, that the layoff slips have to go out in June, and they have to go out based on the mayor's number, so it doesn't matter. But my no vote is that this is not enough money to run this district, and it's not safe. Thank you.
So I've been on both sides of the fence now for 10 years. For 6 of it, I've been saying we cannot continue doing this. Organizational change needs to occur. That means redistricting, realigning schools. All of that could have been done in the last 6 to 7 months, at least a plan to be discussed. Not once did it happen. The former school committee did not talk about any of that. They talked about books. They talked about policies. That's not a budget. We need to talk about this now. So if we're going to vote no on a budget, we're voting no on 114. The 118 is still below 30 in the classroom. If you're going to vote no, what's the number then? Because if we're all going to vote no, what's the number? For the last month, we've asked them to come up with the solution. And I'm not trying to take this out on you guys. We've been working very well together. This committee has turned very much quickly around, and hopefully the community sees it. We're not bickering back and forth. We're not arguing with each other. We're collaborating. More than the other side is doing. And our relationship with the council has gotten better this year. Wish it was better with them among themselves. We need to come up with a number, folks. And if 118 isn't the number tonight, a solution needs to be put forth. Because I came up with this on Tuesday, that this still is a shortfall. And no one came up and said, hey, let's go to 120, 125. Like, let's be realistic here. We need the state numbers. It's parliamentary procedure. We need to do something here. We can reopen this budget. We can give more money. We can ask the council for more money. Another $1.2 million in free cash is going to come to us potentially, on top of potentially a $4.2 million from the state. Potentially. But let's say the state comes back with $1 million. We're still now going to have to cut 3.5. So we don't have a number to Member Sorois's. It's parliamentary procedure. The process doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But unfortunately, that's what we're voted in to do, is we have to come up with a number that we all can agree on. The mayor puts forth a budget that none of us agree on. Not his fault at the moment. But we got to stop talking about, like, certain things in this committee going forward. We need to look at the organizational structure of the city, on how the schools could adopt a better process instead of just nickel and diming it every year and worrying so much about some policies that we need to complain about for 3 months. We need true infrastructure changes here going forward. And I'll bring the union to the table for those conversations. We need to. But just to say we're going to vote no tonight, what are we voting no on? And that's the solution I need to hear from this team, is what's the number? I'm not going to put the city in a situation either that we're going to deplete $10 million from free cash. Because to be fair, the mayor's going to be taking free cash for other things too, which I wouldn't be surprised if the number of free cash dwindles below double digits this year potentially. Which, God forbid, we're one bridge closure away to that money being completely done. So I'm all ears here, but I'm voting on 118 with the idea that we're going to get more. I'm not voting on 114. So I just need a direction here for this team.
So here's my question. So you're saying you're voting on the 118 expecting more, but that's not the case. You're voting on 118 hoping to get to 118 because the number that's going to the city council is not 118, it's 113 something, almost 114, right? So you're not voting on 118 hoping to get more, you're voting on 118 to hope to get 118.
No.
That's the
well,
reality.
that's part of it, but you're also looking for more. If you take $4 million plus another million, you're over the 5. You're over 5. You're closer to the 20 million number, almost. Okay? We're looking at future projections here. Now, the state could come back and say, you're not getting shit, okay? But I don't see that happening right now. So let's be real here. Let's lock in a number that we can at least give them a direction on, then just say, nope, we don't have a number.
Here's a question though, right? So we vote on the 118, fine. Let's say it passes and we're at 118, okay? The mayor goes to the city and brings them the 114 number because that's what has to happen, right? Layoff notices have to go out based on the 114, not on the 118. So our vote here tonight literally doesn't matter. It's meaningless. So why are we voting? What are we doing? Like, I don't understand why we're bothering to do this. It's a theatrical bullshit, quite honestly. Like, I just don't know what we're doing.
Let's just watch our language, everybody.
I hear worse on Channel 5 News, guys. Come on.
So we do.
The president says something more than I did.
We do.
Okay? Let's not.
We do have a vote on the agenda. My mic is all messed up.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
With all due respect to the vice chair, and we've had some meaningful conversations, I've been on record of consolidation of the IT department for about 2 or 3 years now, okay? And a consolidation of other departments. So please, with all of a sudden, weren't interested in structural reforms. We didn't have the will of the committee. Now, I was in favor of limited privatization. That went nowhere. So some people can talk a good game, but when it comes to making meaningful decisions, okay, and your current city councilor, with all due respect, is not interested in joining the GIC, right? That's a political will decision. So I remember, again, it was a couple of members, and I have no problems with them. No adversarial relationships, philosophical disagreements. They wanted to vote for a budget strictly to abide by the wish list of the former superintendent, okay? That was what, about $20 million gap, roughly? We had to whittle that down, okay? The last 2 years, we've had to lay off about at least 24 people, if not more, the final number, okay? We're gonna anticipate layoffs of 35 people. I don't know about the municipal side because I really don't monitor the city council proceedings and their budget. I don't think you guys matched what the school department did. So I'll put my fiscal conservative credentials to anybody in the history of Methuen. I don't want to be lectured to on things that I advocated for and provide as solutions, okay? And give me a break. We had good discussions, philosophical discussions about a book, right? We were dominating conversations about union negotiations and energy prices and consolidation and a battle over the IT and the legal battle that we won, by the way, on, okay? So at the end of the day, I'm not going to be assigned to say I'm a one-trick pony on social issues. I've been dealing with union negotiations. The mice situation occupied meeting after meeting, and I asked for many maintenance reports. At the same time, which pains me, is that our deputy director of maintenance, we had to let go because of budget cuts, because the state doesn't deal with the inflationary gap. I mentioned that before. I've had conversations with that teacher. I feel absolutely terrible about it, okay? But don't tell me that it's raining and something else is being poured on my head. I've had a very good relationship with the city council. I had to correct the former chairman of the city council, and I asked for information from the former superintendent that's been reinforced by the acting superintendent that we're not a top-heavy school district, okay? That's a misnomer in the community. The former the former chair at the time went online and said, there's a ton of administrators in the schools, okay? The secretaries, and Member Sorois can attest to it, right, are worked to the bone. Okay, the paraprofessionals were poverty wages, similar to community colleges with professors. The teachers, which I absolutely acknowledge, they were 0, 1, and 2 the last decade, because I requested that information, and I had a fight with Member Shabilia about it. I said I wanted that information, because I want to know for the record how undercut this community did to the education community. I don't know what the solutions are. I really don't. I offer solutions, and I put my name on the ballot. You want to vote for me or not vote for me? I'm the real McCoy. I'll tell you the truth. I was there in 2008. Nobody was here in 2008, maybe Ian, right? In an administrative capacity or a school committee capacity, right? I'll tell you the horror stories. Very easily. We're going down that road. I hate to warn you. We're not even in a recession. If all of a sudden the housing market collapses, we're in major dire straits. And like I said, it pains me that someone said, why do you have a sizable free cash reserve? Well, first of all, like the mayor indicated, we're cleaning up the schools after years of neglect. That wasn't the mayor's fault. That wasn't your fault in the capacity as a counselor. You were a school committee member. It was brought to our attention from our colleagues and the teachers, and they had every right to do so, right? The audit revealed that there was a culture of fear, so they couldn't come and voluntarily mention issues with their classrooms. Top to bottom, we cleaned the classrooms. We cleaned the egress. We cleaned the corridors in the surrounding areas. We did as a collective thing, right? But give me a break where the city council did this and you're like a white horse and a thing. Give me a break. We work together, all right? Let's provide some solutions and let's work together.
Point of information, I just want to clarify with Mr. Goslin, the motion that's forward right now is for the $118 million number, right?
So this is for the operating net school spending without chargeback, so it's 106,590,457. It is representative of a number that's above and beyond what I had given to the district. So that, as I mentioned, is the reason why I have to vote no on this. I have to present a balanced budget to the council. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to go through each aspect of the budget and take a vote separately. So we have operating net school spending, no chargebacks. We have the non-net number, which is the transportation contract, et cetera. And then we have the total operating budget. That'll be a separate vote. That's the 118 number that had been placed in the Tribune. And then we have city chargebacks, the estimate for that. That represents health insurance, other costs in that regard. And then there's the total absolute bottom line number that includes the chargeback. So we'll take separate votes on all of them, but this is a discussion and a vote regarding operating net school spending, 106,590,457. So,
Mr. Mayor, can I just do a point of I just want a clarification. Yeah, thank you. So I just want to say, I think a lot of people heard me say it. I didn't call out anyone in this. So you're 100%. I was up for the IT consolidation too. Sure, we could talk about it. We're always that. But what I'm getting at is that this time last year, I was on another side of the fence. And I said that this number was going to be very close to what it is now. And I asked and I begged that we start doing it. And the only reason why I ran was because I would love to have fixed this problem going forward. That's why I'm here. I came back. We haven't gotten to that
Excuse me,
point.
can
But
I,
the point
can I,
is,
can I just interrupt for a point of information and ask that we stay focused on the task at hand? So my question is,
also the motion to move the question.
Vice Chair, no.
Motion to move the question.
I have
Stop.
a question, please.
It's going to be a second.
Stop. Just stop.
No, I just have a question, just so I can better understand, because I think we're kind of lost in the weeds right now. We have a fiduciary responsibility to move a number forward tonight. Is that accurate? May not be your number, Mayor, but, you know, there's another number.
This is part of our traditional process.
Right.
And how it's done every year.
Okay, I just want to be clear about that. And we have a budget that has been recommended with great pain and great effort by our leadership team. And we have the unknown of what the state will give us, and we're in the same place we were last year. It's like deja vu all over again. I just want to make sure. Okay. Thank you.
We should take a roll call vote now, all right?
Move the question.
Yep, all right, let's take a roll call vote on the 106 number. Again, this represents part of the math for the higher 118 number.
Yes, right there in front of you. Nope, next one over. To your right.
Was the motion to move the question seconded?
Yes.
There's no need to move the question because we're proceeding to the vote.
No more call.
Just a point of information, it's based off the 106 number. Moving the question's moving it to the 106. There's 7 votes here that we have to take, so it's only on this current vote. Thank you.
Okay. Member Soroyce?
No.
Oh, Member Keegan?
No.
Member Willett?
Nope.
Member DiZoglio? Mayor Beauregard?
I have to vote no.
Member Donovan, yes. Member Baez?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so technically, we do not have an adopted operating net school spending number, no chargebacks. We're going to keep going. As a formality, we need to go through these votes tonight. It's on the agenda. Total non-net school spending, the number is $11,855,430. This is largely contractual through the transportation contract. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is from the Vice Chair, second is from Member Keegan. Discussion? There's no discussion. We'll take a roll call vote on total non-net school spending.
Member Keegan?
Yes.
Member Soroyce?
Yes.
Member Willett?
No.
Member DiZoglio?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
Yes.
Member Donovan, yes. Member Baez?
Yes.
Next, we have total operating fiscal year 27 budget. The total number is $118,445,887.
Point of information. Mayor, it's not. It's 11,855,430 because we didn't pass the 106. We can't move forward with the 118 if I think about it, correct?
It would only make sense that if you voted no for the 106, you'd vote no for the 118.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a formality.
Okay. Technically, only 11 million's been approved.
Right, the 11 million.
11.8.
is just transportation.
Yep.
So it's included in that 118.
Yep.
The 11 plus the 106.
Okay. Thank you.
The vote's a formality at this point.
Yep.
Roll call?
Member Keegan?
No.
Member Soroyce?
No.
Member Willett?
Nope.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair DiZoglio?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
No.
Member Donovan, yes. Member Baez?
Yes.
Next, we have city chargebacks. The estimate is $23,697,481. This is an estimate, very likely to change, but again, as a part of the formal process here tonight, we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is from Member Keegan, second from the Vice Chair. Discussion. This is for the estimate for chargebacks. Roll call.
Member Keegan?
Yes.
Member Saroyce?
Yes.
Member Willett?
No.
Member DiZoglio?
Yes.
Mayor Beauregard?
Yes.
Member Donovan? Yes. Member Baez?
Yes.
Total fiscal year '27 operating budget, this is net and non-net plus chargebacks, $142,143,368. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's from the Vice Chair, seconds from Member Keegan. Discussion? There's no discussion, we'll take a roll call vote.
Well, a point of information now, I mean, that number should be the total approved.
Right.
We shouldn't be voting on the 142 now.
This
This
is-
has to be the total approved.
It's a formality, Nick.
Similar to the last time, it would make sense that if you voted no on the 106, then it would not add up to 142. So you don't want the 142 number either. I don't want to tell people how to vote, but it would only make sense.
And I am going to have to sort this out just for everyone to be aware. I have to kind of sort this out with legal, too, because I need to submit a budget by next Friday. It has to be balanced, and Lord knows where we are right now in terms of procedure. But here we are. Roll call?
Mr. Mayor, before
Member
that,
Baez?
you asked for discussion, may I?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get to finish earlier. I know we have to move on and adopt the budget, but I just wanted to emphasize again, despite the fact that the state formula is broken, we have great state representatives and senators on the job. I'd like to thank publicly Senator Pavel Payano, currently in doing his job and getting more funding for us. And we also haven't, this is dreadful for all of us. Nobody likes what's going on. But I will say again, as I said in the first meeting, it is also an opportunity in terms of we are searching for a permanent superintendent. The policy subcommittee has passed recommendations to redact or remove all philosophical statements from our policy book, as to create a new one when we get a new with the intention of creating new philosophical statements with the new permanent superintendent. Strategic plan is coming up to an end as well. So ironically, a perfect storm in terms of we have an opportunity to think long-term here. So I just want to put that out there as well. And then now I just have a few questions for you guys in terms of, and I know this is already just a formality, so I apologize, but I do have to exercise my right to discussion here. My first question is in terms of the psychologist. It seems as if the Timony has 3, and I haven't gone through this book yet. I know that the reductions and cuts are in the memo, but I like seeing them in the book because I can see them visually. So I apologize if my questions are outdated at this point. The Timony has 3 guidance / psychologists, and I think a psychologist as well for kindergarten. And I know other schools need psychologists as well. So why can't we? And I know the high school as well. So why can't we move some psychologists from the Timony to other grammars or the high school? That's my first of a few.
So to answer specifically for the Timony, we have one testing-only school psychologist, which is where the vacancies in the other buildings are. We happen to have 2 school counselors who are also certified psychologists, but they are providing direct services to students. Okay. They do a little bit of testing, but that's not what their job description or role that they were hired for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is the Tenny seems to have a counselor for every grade level, and that doesn't seem consistent around the district. Is there a logic behind that?
That was the result of reductions from years gone by or requests that have had to be removed due to budget constraints.
Okay. So the high school has 2 secretaries, and with the budget that I voted yes on, we would be adding a bilingual parent liaison to that. The grammars also have 2 secretaries. So my question is, if the high school with 1,700 students roughly can handle with 2 secretaries, can the grammars, and again, I hate bringing this up, handle 1 secretary with technically half, let's say the 900 students, with 1 secretary and 1 parent liaison, and we could redirect that somewhere else?
I would say that that's a common concern of families that we hear, is that they sometimes have a difficult time getting in touch with the school in a timely fashion. And there's several responsibilities besides greeting families, which they oversee. In fact, there's been requests for additional secretaries that many of the principals were being very conservative in not requesting this year, recognizing it's a tough budget season.
Okay. And I just want to point out that I'm making these questions because if the state doesn't come through, then we are going to be looking at making cuts somewhere. So I just want to get answers from the leadership team so I could be thoughtful in my synthesis and going forward in the future. My last point is for my own education, the differences between bilingual parent liaisons and a secretary. So if you guys could just bring me through the qualifications, if any, for a secretary versus the qualifications, if any, for a bilingual parent liaison.
I'm sure we could provide you with those full job descriptions and postings to give you the detail of those different positions.
Would you say, thank you, that would be perfect. Would you say that the workload is similar or drastically different between a secretary and a parent liaison?
The secretaries work within a unit, and the bilingual liaisons are unaffiliated, so by definition, their roles do have to be dissimilar, although they sometimes work in the same space and toward the same goal.
Got you. So, I mean, I just bring this up because I know this is preaching to the choir. The pay difference between a bilingual parent liaison and a secretary is drastic, and to me, it's kind of unfair, especially if those roles are united in a sense and the workload, right? But again, I do understand we have a budget, and I just wanted to bring that concern forward. So.
Can I just jump in? I'm curious. Secretaries are full year, bilingual liaisons are school year?
School year with a few additional work days, so typically they assist in our LFAIR.
Thank you. Those were my specific questions for tonight in terms of the budget for my own education and if need be for the future. Thank you.
Member Royce?
Just a point of information. I'm not even sure how many years ago it was. We had 3 secretaries in each of our K through 8 buildings. And we gave up one of those secretaries in one of the budget cuts. And it's like anything else. You let it go and you never get it back. Those secretaries, there's one on each end of the building. There's doors that they have to be secured. They have to let people in. I don't know in most of the schools how that would happen if you eliminated it and just had one secretary. Also, the secretaries are contractual, so you can't have bilingual liaisons doing secretaries' jobs. My other comment is I really and truly want to thank the mayor for what he's done for our schools. He came through with the money to clean up for the mice. However, my thought on that has always been, if we were funded properly, we wouldn't have gotten to that situation. But I do want to thank him for getting us out of that mess, because that's something that should have been funded and done quite a while ago. Let's see. And I just want to say that I ran for school committee to stop the destruction of the school budget and the schools in our city. I have seen it happen time and time again. The cuts, the cuts, the cuts. I'm not sure there's been that many cuts on the city side. I don't know. I'm not part of their budget. I didn't work for them. But at some point, it has to stop. And this restructuring and what's happening in the city, it's sad that's happening too. But I really do want to thank you, Mayor, and I don't mean to make your job any more difficult by voting no. And I know we'll come to a conclusion to this, but I just had to make a statement that I just feel that it has to stop. It has to stop. There's nothing, your own words, we're cutting bone. There's nothing left to cut. These positions that we're cutting aren't even positions that our administration had asked for to improve our schools and make them more safe. These are positions we're cutting that already existed, and I hope people understand that as well. There were many positions that we needed to make our schools safe, to teach our kids to read, to educate our students, to keep our classrooms less than 30. And those, you don't even see those. These are positions that exist that are being cut. And I hope people understand that it has to stop. It just has to stop. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. This is the absolute bottom line total.
Okay, we ready? So, Member Keegan?
No.
Member Soroyce?
No.
Member Willett?
No.
Member DiZoglio? Mayor Beauregard?
No.
Member Donovan, yes. Member Baez?
Yes.
I have a feeling we'll be back here.
Yeah, I do too.
We need a motion and a second to close the budget adoption.
So moved.
Motion's from Member Soroyce. The second is from the Vice Chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? At this point, I guess technically also we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Vice Chair has the motion to adjourn. The second's from Member Soroyce. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The time is 7:57 and our meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.